Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Sunday after our Thanksgiving holiday, and we're still in the mood of being thankful. So grateful to be here, and I'm going to read a passage from the book Happy Life by the Spirit Jonah Angelis. A device is only as valuable as your willingness to follow it. Whenever you struggle with any given subject, seek guidance from a more experienced, better equipped person. However, leave your own opinion at the door and do not try to prove it right. Listen carefully and ponder. Then make what seems to be the best decision. Moreover, don't let good advice fall on deaf ears. Examine everything. Hold fast to that which is good, states the apostle in the name of the good. So, with a beautiful message in mind, remember that good advices is for ourselves first. So every time when we get a good advice, we think that's good for us as well. And with those beautiful words, we connect with our spiritual mentors and guides in the name of Jesus. And Mother Mary, we're grateful to be here. And we ask for your guidance and advice, because we don't see better guide than Jesus. So please help us, Jesus, to understand your gospel, to understand your advice for us to have a better life, today and always. Please bless our meeting, helping us to open up our hearts and minds for the teachings that we're going to receive today. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edmara. Thank you very much. We're going to start, and unfortunately this is November 2022, but we're still dealing with our lessons from COVID and with all the flu that's going around right now. So we're coming close to the winter in the northern hemisphere, and the lessons continue, right? What is spirituality? There's a lot of people that talk about spirituality in general. Let's define what we mean when we say spirituality. When we say the word spirituality, what we mean is humans are not just the body. They're not just the biology. I know we're familiar with our bodies. I know the bodies are very important to us right now. We identify ourselves with our bodies. But when we talk about spirituality, what we're talking about is the fact, right, for us, that a human being, a person, you and me, we're not just our biology. We have something else. We call it spirit. And there's a lot of other things that go with it that do not die when the body is gone and was alive before the body was born. So that's what we say. When we talk about spirituality, that's what we mean, right? And for us, this is not a religious thing. This is the way the universe is. This is the way our lives are, right? It's not in any shape and form a spiritist thing. It's just the way it is. We believe that not far in the future, science will actually be there and understand those things and study properly, and eventually people 100 years from now, 200 years from now, will have that as a natural thing as well. As much as we now take all the technology we have around us for granted, imagine 100 years ago trying to explain to someone living back then a cell phone that we now have on our pockets all the time, right? So we believe that this is the way we're going. So we don't know how long it's going to take, but eventually, because this is the way life is, truly is, eventually that's the way it's going to be. But it's not right now. If you live in 2022 on Earth, the notion of a spiritual being, which means a human being that has something that survives death, and it was life before it, is not the norm. Most people live their lives only with the body in mind, only with the experience of the flesh, of what the five senses of the body, and they're enveloped in their daily lives and whatever is going on, and that's it. And everything outside of that scope is just completely, most of the time, ignored, right? But there's a few things that happen in our life that throw up a little bit of oil, just make us slip, make the road slippery for us, right? I call them, we're going to call them today the calls to spirituality. Where are the calls to spirituality, right? That everybody, I think, every single one of us, at some point in our life, will face it. They come to us in different ways. We're going to talk about a few of those ways today, the ones we could talk about, we could think about. One of the ways we're called to spirituality is just through really questioning in philosophy. Some people just stop and think, hey, am I going to die? Does everybody dies? Is that the end? What is the meaning of life? Some people really put some thought to those things and start, going for it and trying to understand it. They want to find a meaning to their lives, right? And that's natural for them. And that's our first call. So it's when we ourselves wants to seek deeper meaning to our lives, right? Deeper, make our life make sense, right? And in many cases, this is a wonderful door to something much better. Because if we act upon it, if we prepare ourselves to discover, we might find many of the different movements that exist on Earth, right? Spiritism being one of them. And we may find realization because we just, we want things to click in our mind. Right? And we have to differentiate, of course here, spirituality from religion. Because religion is a movement, it's a group of people that have a certain group of ideas, right? Spirituality, when we talk about here in this concept, is the way nature is the way everybody is going to be. Because it's not a choice. If we are truly spirits, or if you're truly, whatever the name you want to give to this thing that survives the body, if it exists for everybody. It's true for you and it's true for me, right? And you might find satisfaction, you might find answers in a religious movement, or not, or in a philosophical movement, whatever you find. But this is one of the calls to spirituality. One of the most graceful, if you think about it. To just be aware of your destiny, be aware of the things that we know are going to happen to us. But that's not the typical door to spirituality. Another call to spirituality that happens to us is just pure suffering and pain. When we go through our own emotional and difficult disillusions, when we go through life and we have a person that we love that doesn't want to be with us, when we have frustrations that come from different relationships, from work, from all sorts of situations, those bring a tremendous pain to us. Those test the core of our understanding of who we are. And in many cases, those are calls for spirituality. Those are calls for us to understand deeper who we are and prepare ourselves to have the strength to withstand the challenge of life. And who is going to go through life without a single disappointment? Good luck. Right? We're going to have some of those. And some may be big. Some might be big. And the more attached we are to our material-only life, sometimes the more painful those disillusions, those disappointments can be, right? In most situations, things that disappoint us are actually calls for a greater understanding of our own life. They're not punishment. They're not God or bad things coming to us. Well, you can interpret them in a better way from a biological, from a material perspective, but in most situations, we see that as a call to a greater understanding of your own life. Because if somebody left you, right, the pain shouldn't be something unsurmountable to you, because you have to respect the choice of other people. It's a tough lesson. It's one of the toughest lessons, to respect other people's choices. And do you think God doesn't have anything better for you? He does, right? But there's a path. There's a way to get there. And probably you were the one to drive. Another very interesting call to spirituality that happens to us is a very interesting, that has a lot to do with our movement, because it's one of the challenges today, is when people start having perceptions, sensations that are not explainable for the mainstream framework understanding of the five senses, right? When you hear voices that are not there, when you see people, things that nobody else sees, when you feel sensations that don't have a good explanation, you feel anxieties, you feel all sorts of strong emotional perceptions that you don't have a good explanation for. They just pop and show up out of the blue, and you cannot connect them to anything going on in your life. This is the case of a lot of people. We would say like 10 to 20% of the people on earth might have to face this experience one way or another. And those are the ones that suffer a lot. Because right now, the way we treat those through medicine is through usually heavy medicines and all sorts of, because they see as a problem of the body. Fundamentally, through the framework we have right now, those problems are connected to a defective biology. So your biology, for some reason, is not working properly. For us, many of those people that have those sensations, those visions, those understanding, there's nothing wrong with their biology. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, fundamentally. What happened is they just have an ability to perceive things that are outside in the environment that many people don't. Many people do not perceive. For us, we have, and this is where I think Spiritism has a tremendous contribution. We propose education. We propose that you use your own body as your lab, as your laboratory, to understand better who you are, and to understand that those perceptions are natural, they're part of the world, and eventually might be even something more common in the future. But dealing with them in a balanced way is the most important element. Most important. It's a very strong call to self-awareness, and to me, one of the most powerful calls to spirituality. Because it's very difficult to have a somewhat, quote-unquote, normal life when you have those perceptions, and most people around you don't. It creates a lot of difficulty to people. So we welcome you if you have that problem. Probably Spiritism is one of the frameworks you should also put in your list of things to check, right? For us, they are just perceptions, and there's a lot of experiments, there's a lot of things you can do to get to know yourself better and understand. So in a way, you just deal with it. It's like those things are not supposed to be turned off because they cannot be. It's like, let's say you think you are too tall and you don't want to be tall. It's difficult to not be tall because your body is tall. It's just like the way you came, right? So you have to learn to be tall, to do things the best way. And for us, people that have perceptions, they're just that. They have that. It has to do with their biology, but it's something that they're capable of perceiving in the environment that most people don't, and it's just a question of learning to deal with that. right? Channeling that energy in the proper way. Big challenge nowadays. Another one that I'm going to mention as well, call to spirituality, is simply health related. And this is the thing, this is one of the most difficult things of having a body, right? We're going through right now with, still diseases going around us. But having a body means you can get sick. You may have challenges with your body not functioning the proper way. All sorts of difficulties that come from the health environment, right? When our bodies, for some reason, are not, the biology is not working as expected. And there you go, then we face the perspective of a disease. And they can be as serious or as simple. But those, as you can imagine, but what are diseases? Why do we have diseases? Why do we have biology that sometimes doesn't work appropriately? One of the main answers to that is that in most cases, diseases are calls to spirituality. They are an invitation, a stronger one, to make us think about ourselves as minds that will never die. There's usually some connection to some learning process, to some mental situation that is there to be experienced, right? In theology, sometimes people think about diseases as being like a punishment from God. We think far from it. We think that those are experiences that sometimes are tough, but because the spirit, the essence, the mind never dies, diseases are really simply experiences. Truly are. And that's why all those problems of life we talked about, and many others you can come up with, when we look at them through the lenses of a mind, of a spirit that never dies, they change in perspective. They move. So then the major call comes along, right? If we are truly spiritual beings, if we have this thing that survives that and it was alive before, why are we here? And there's many answers to that. The one we're going to talk today, the one we're going to mention today, is because God loves us. Because the experience we're having right now is the best, not for the body, maybe, but is the best experience for our immortal spirits. Right now, we're going through a tremendous opportunity of growth for the mind, the spirit, not necessarily the body. And it's funny that it's all a question of perspective. I always like to say this because it puts things so much in perspective. I don't know if you, we like to play with our kids, I always forget the name of the game, Banco Imobiliário, what's the name of the? Monopoly, the Monopoly game, right? Where you're supposed to buy properties and so on. And it's such a wonderful game, right, to play with family. But when you're playing that game, you want to win, you want to get the rent, you want to get the properties, you are there, you were just, and it's a big fight, right? But 2-3 days after the game, who remembered the game, right? It was there, it was an experience we went through. Hopefully we had a good time. Hopefully whoever lost gently. Hopefully people, it was a great time together, right? But it was just that, an experience. We all can relate to that. Hopefully you don't take the the Monopoly experience. If you lost in a Monopoly game, that's not affecting you, emotionally. Because we move on from that, don't we? Nobody, hopefully, who knows, right? Maybe somebody did, but most people move on from not winning Banco Imobiliário or Monopoly if you want, right? Unfortunately, if you think about lives that never end, and if you think about us as spirits that will never die, ever, do you think we're going to remember the life we have right now 1,000 years from now? What about 2,000? What about 10,000? How important this life is right now. It is very important for my growth, but it's very much part of this experience I have to go through. That's it. We're much bigger than that. We're much bigger than that. We have been given spiritual life, God knows how long ago, and we are beings navigating this process, navigating this experience with a much higher destiny. Do you see how things change? How important is the calls to spirituality? And if we don't listen to the gentle calls that come to us, love thy neighbor as yourself, have compassion to all those around us. If we don't listen to those gentle calls, the harder calls come. But the destination is set for us. We are set to be spiritual beings that one day will live to the fullest. It's in our destiny, thanks to the love that comes from God. With that in mind, that's it for us here. We're going to stop, say goodbye to our friends in the digital world, and we're going to move now to our meditation and passes over here. Thank you guys very much, and see you soon.